The sound of my father's fist slamming against the mahogany desk echoed through his study like a gunshot. "Elena, get in here right now!" His voice carried that particular rage I remembered so well from my previous life, the kind that meant someone was about to be completely destroyed. I walked in calmly, my hand steady as I closed the door behind me. In my past life, this moment had left me trembling, begging, desperate to explain. This time, I simply sat down in the chair across from him and waited. "Look at this." He threw a stack of papers at me, his face purple with fury. "Your college grades. You're failing everything. After everything we've invested in you, this is how you repay us." The papers scattered across the expensive Persian rug. All C's and D's, exactly as I'd planned. In my previous life, I had graduated summa cum laude, thinking my academic excellence would finally earn their love. Instead, they'd used my business degree to justify giving me a junior position at the family company, while my stepsister Victoria got the VP role she'd never earned. "I'm disappointed too, Dad," I said quietly, picking up one of the grade reports. "I guess I'm just not as smart as Victoria." His eyes narrowed. "Don't you dare compare yourself to Victoria. She's been on the dean's list every semester while you've been..." "What? Partying? Wasting your life?" Behind him, my stepmother Patricia stood with her arms crossed, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her designer blouse. "James, I told you this would happen. Some people just don't have what it takes." I nodded seriously. "You're absolutely right, Patricia. I should probably just drop out and save everyone the embarrassment." The words hit exactly as I'd intended. My father's face went from purple to white. "Drop out? Are you insane? Do you have any idea what that would do to our family's reputation?" "But I'm clearly not cut out for this," I continued, my voice small and defeated. "Maybe I should just find my own way, stop being such a burden on the family." Patricia and my father exchanged a look. This was going even better than I'd hoped. "Elena," Patricia said, her tone dripping with false sympathy, "maybe it's time we had an honest conversation about your future. You're 21 now, an adult. Perhaps it would be best if you became more independent." Independent. That was Patricia's polite way of saying disowned. "You mean you want me to leave?" I asked, letting my voice crack just a little. My father cleared his throat. "We think it might be best if you took some time to figure out who you are without the family's support, learn the value of hard work, understand what you've been taking for granted." I stood up slowly, as if the weight of their words was crushing me. "I understand. You want me to move out." "We'll give you a month," Patricia said quickly, clearly eager to seal the deal. "That's more than generous. You can take your car, of course, and we'll cover your rent for the first 3 months. After that..." She shrugged elegantly. I almost laughed. In my previous life, this conversation had happened when I was 25, after years of being passed over for promotions, while Victoria failed upward. By then, I'd made the millions through my stock picks and business strategies, all while receiving a fraction of the credit. They'd still kicked me out the moment Victoria convinced them I was holding the family back. But this time, I was ready. "I'll start looking for an apartment tomorrow," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. As I turned to leave, my father called out, "Elena, this isn't permanent. If you can prove yourself, get your grades up, show some responsibility, there might be a place for you in the family business again." I paused at the door. "Of course, Dad. I understand." What I understood was that they had no idea what they'd just set in motion. 3 hours later, I was sitting in my childhood bedroom, staring at my laptop screen. To anyone watching, I looked like a devastated young woman researching rental apartments. In reality, I was logged into my trading account under the name Elena Rodriguez, my mother's maiden name, which I'd legally added to my documentation months ago in preparation for this moment. The account showed a balance of $2.3 million. In my previous life, I'd started seriously trading when I was 22, using birthday money and part-time job savings. By 25, I'd turned $3,000 into over $50 million through a combination of tech stock investments, cryptocurrency early adoption, and perfectly timed short positions during market crashes. But I'd hidden it all, terrified that my family would try to control it or take credit for my success. I'd been such a fool. This time, I'd started investing the day after my 18th birthday, using every penny I could scrape together from odd jobs and birthday gifts. I'd bought Bitcoin at $8,000, Tesla at $180 per share, and had made several strategic puts right before the market corrections I remembered from my past life. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Heard about Dad's little talk with you. Don't take it too hard. Maybe this will be good for you." I smiled and typed back, "You're probably right. I need to learn to stand on my own feet." Exactly. Independence builds character. Though I have to say, I'm a little worried about you. You've never lived on your own before. Oh, Victoria. Sweet, manipulative Victoria, who had spent years convincing everyone that I was incompetent while she took credit for my ideas. In my past life, she'd been the one to suggest I be temporarily removed from the company after the Thompson deal, a deal I'd structured and negotiated entirely on my own, which had netted the family business $47 million. "I'll figure it out," I replied. "Maybe I'll get a job at Starbucks or something. Honest work, right?" "That's the spirit. You know what? I'll even put in a good word for you if you want. I know the regional manager." I stared at that message for a long moment. Victoria actually thought I'd need her help getting a minimum wage job. The same Victoria who had flunked basic economics twice, and whose biggest business achievement was inheriting a trust fund. "That's so sweet of you," I texted back. "I really appreciate it." 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came. "Of course, family helps family, right? Even when, circumstances change. Even when circumstances change. Code for even when you get disowned." I set my phone aside and returned to my laptop. Tomorrow I'd start apartment hunting, but not for some tiny studio that screamed failure. I'd already identified a luxury high-rise downtown, the kind of place that cost more per month than most people made in a year. The kind of place that would make certain people very, very curious about how I could afford it. But first, I had some investments to make. I pulled up the research I'd compiled over the past few months. Quantum Dynamics was about to announce a breakthrough in their lithium battery technology, something that wouldn't hit the news for another 6 weeks. In my previous life, their stock had jumped from $12 to $89 practically overnight. I placed an order for 50,000 shares at $11.87. Next was medical pharmaceuticals. Their Alzheimer's drug trial results would be released in exactly 23 days. The drug would fail spectacularly, sending the stock from $67 to $8 in a matter of hours. I set up a short position that would net me roughly $800,000 when it collapsed. Finally, I checked my cryptocurrency wallet. The Bitcoin I'd bought at various price points was now worth just over $4.2 million. Ethereum had been an even better play. I'd accumulated 15,000 coins at an average price of $350 each. They were now worth $1,800 per coin. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Elena, it's Mum." I almost dropped the phone. My biological mother, Rebecca, who had died when I was 12. Except she hadn't died. That was just what my father had told me. In my previous life, I discovered the truth entirely by accident when I was 31. She'd been living in Portland, working as a nurse, believing that I wanted nothing to do with her because I'd never responded to any of her letters. Letters that Patricia had intercepted and hidden for nearly a decade. Mom? My voice came out strangled. Honey, I know this is probably a shock. I've been trying to reach you for years, but, well, I finally hired a private investigator. He found your direct number. I hope that's okay. Tears I hadn't expected began streaming down my face. Mum, I thought you were dead. The silence on the other end stretched for what felt like forever. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Dead? Elena, what are you talking about? I've sent you letters every month since the divorce. Birthday cards, Christmas presents. I even tried calling the house, but Patricia always said you didn't want to speak to me. The final piece of my revenge puzzle clicked into place. Mum, I said, my voice steady despite the tears, I think we need to talk, and I think there are some things you need to know about Patricia. I'm listening, sweetheart. Can you come to the city? I'm about to move into my own place, and I think it's time you met the real me. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my childhood bedroom, watching the lights of the city twinkle below. In exactly 4 weeks, Victoria would present her revolutionary marketing strategy to the board, a strategy I'd spent months developing in my previous life, which she'd stolen from my laptop and claimed as her own work. In 6 weeks, my father would discover that the Thompson account, their biggest client, was threatening to leave because of inconsistencies in service quality. Inconsistencies that would mysteriously resolve themselves only when they hired a certain consulting firm I was about to establish. And in 3 months, Patricia would find out that the letters she'd hidden weren't the only secrets about to surface. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to a certain investigative journalist who specialised in corporate fraud. I'd met him in my previous life, and I knew exactly what kind of story would capture his attention. Dear Mr. Harrison, I wrote, I have information about systematic financial improprieties at Whitmore Industries that I believe would be of interest to you. Let them disown me. Let them think I was weak, stupid, destined for failure. They had no idea that the failure walking out their door was actually a multi-millionaire with a perfect memory of the next 5 years of market movements. And I was just getting started. The luxury apartment's floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of my father's office building 12 blocks away. I could practically see the Whitmore Industries logo from my new $8,000 a month penthouse. The irony was delicious. Elena, this place is incredible. My mother Rebecca stood in the living room, her nurse's scrubs looking oddly out of place against the marble floors and designer furniture. But, honey, how can you possibly afford this? I handed her a cup of coffee from my new espresso machine, the same model Patricia had bragged about wanting, but couldn't justify buying. I've been investing, Mum. Turns out I'm pretty good with money. That was an understatement. In the 2 weeks since I'd moved out, Quantum Dynamics had announced their battery breakthrough exactly on schedule. My 50,000 shares had netted me $3.8 million overnight. The financial news was calling it the biggest surprise jump of the year. Rebecca sat down on my Italian leather sofa, looking overwhelmed. Investing? But you're only 21. Age is just a number in the stock market. I curled up next to her, still amazed that she was real, here, alive. Mum, tell me about the letters. Her face crumpled. Oh, sweetheart, I wrote to you every single week after the divorce. Birthdays, holidays, just random thoughts about my day. I sent them to your father's house, but... She pulled out her phone and showed me a folder thick with returned mail. They all came back marked, returned to sender, recipient refuses mail. My jaw clenched. Patricia's handiwork, no doubt. What about when you called? Patricia always answered. She'd put on this sad voice and say you'd asked her to tell me you wanted to move on and focus on your new family. She said forcing contact would only hurt you more. I took a deep breath. In my previous life, I discovered this truth by accident when a private investigator had contacted me about Rebecca's will. She'd died, believing I hated her. This time, I'd saved her. Saved us both. "Mum, I want you to see something." I led her to my home office, where 3 monitors displayed my trading dashboard. "This is what I've been doing instead of studying." Rebecca's eyes widened as she took in the numbers. "Elena, is that millions?" 7.2 million to be exact, and growing. I pulled up my portfolio. I started with $3,000 in birthday money 3 years ago. She sank into my desk chair, staring at the screen. "But how did you know which stocks to pick?" I smiled. "Research. Lots and lots of research." My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "OMG, did you see the news about quantum dynamics? Their stock went crazy. Dad is so mad he didn't invest when their broker recommended it last month." I showed the message to my mother. "Victoria thinks she's gloating. She has no idea I made almost $4 million off that crazy jump." "This is your stepsister?" Rebecca's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "The same one who's been taking credit for my work since high school. The same one who convinced Dad I was holding the family back and needed to be cut loose." Rebecca stood up abruptly. "Elena, I need to tell you something about the divorce. About why your father really got custody." I waited, though I already knew what she was going to say. "Patricia was already pregnant when I found out about the affair. She was 3 months along when your father asked for the divorce. But Elena, she told the court I was an unfit mother. She claimed I was drinking, neglecting you, that you were afraid of me. None of that was true." "Of course not. But she had witnesses. People from your father's company who swore they'd seen me drunk at school events, heard you crying when you came back from weekends with me. All lies, but the judge believed them. In my previous life, I thought my father had won custody because he could provide better for me financially. Learning the truth had been devastating." "There's more," Rebecca continued. "Patricia paid for those witnesses. I found out years later when one of them had a guilty conscience and confessed. But by then, you were 17, and I thought you wouldn't want to hear from me." I took her hands. "Mum, I want you to help me with something. Patricia destroyed our relationship with lies. Now I'm going to destroy hers with the truth." Before she could ask what I meant, my other phone, my business line, rang. The caller ID made me smile. "Elena Rodriguez speaking." "Miss Rodriguez, this is David Thompson from Thompson Holdings. I believe you sent our board a very interesting proposal last week." Perfect timing. Thompson Holdings was Whitmore Industries' biggest client, responsible for nearly 30% of their annual revenue. In my previous life, they'd eventually left because of Victoria's incompetent handling of their account. This time, I was offering them something better. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for calling. I hope you had a chance to review my analysis of your current marketing inefficiencies." "We did, indeed. Your insights into our Q3 campaign failures were remarkably accurate. How did you know about the Instagram engagement metrics?" "Those weren't public. I'd known because in my previous life, I'd been the one to identify and fix those exact problems, while Victoria took all the credit." "Thorough research and industry connections, Mr. Thompson. I make it my business to understand market dynamics." "We'd like to meet. Are you available tomorrow?" "Of course. I'll have my assistant send you my office address." After we hung up, Rebecca stared at me. "You have an assistant?" "As of tomorrow, I will." I was already mentally composing the job posting. "Mum, how would you like to help me destroy the people who kept us apart for 9 years?" Her smile was fierce. "Tell me what you need." The next morning, I stood in my new office, a sleek space in the financial district that I leased under my consulting firm, Phoenix Strategic Solutions. The name felt appropriate. Rising from ashes and all that. Victoria's latest text had arrived an hour ago. Haven't heard from you in forever. How's the job hunt going? Still thinking about that Starbucks position? I typed back, actually got something in the financial district. Nothing fancy, just answering phones at some consulting firm. Her response was immediate. That's great. See, I told you things would work out. What's the company called? Phoenix Strategic Solutions. Never heard of them before, but they seem nice. Cute name. Well, I'm sure you'll do great at whatever it is you'll be doing there. The condescension dripped through the screen. Victoria truly believed I was destined for menial work. My assistant, a sharp recent graduate named Maya Chen, who'd responded to my posting within hours, knocked on my door. Miss Rodriguez, the Thompson Holdings team is here. Send them in. David Thompson entered with two of his VPs, looking impressed despite themselves. My office was designed to project success without ostentation. Expensive, but understated, exactly the image I wanted. Miss Rodriguez, thank you for seeing us on such short notice. Thompson settled into one of my conference chairs. Your proposal was eye-opening. I opened my presentation. Gentlemen, let me show you exactly what's been costing you market share. For the next hour, I laid out everything. How Victoria's campaigns had missed their target demographics, why their social media engagement was dropping, which platforms they should be prioritizing. I had charts, metrics, projections, everything I'd developed in my previous life polished to perfection. This is extraordinary work, one of the VPs murmured. How long did this analysis take? Several weeks of intensive research. True enough. I believe strongly in thorough preparation. Thompson leaned forward. Miss Rodriguez, I have to ask, this level of insight into our account suggests you have inside knowledge of our current marketing strategies. Strategies developed by Whitmore Industries? I smiled. Mr. Thompson, anyone with sufficient research capabilities and industry expertise could identify these patterns. The real question is, why hasn't your current firm addressed these issues? That's exactly what we've been wondering. Thompson's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. Speak of the devil. James Whitmore wants to schedule an emergency meeting about our account. Apparently, there are exciting new developments he wants to discuss. I kept my expression neutral. How interesting. And what will you tell him? That we'll consider it. But, frankly, after seeing your work... He stood and extended his hand. Miss Rodriguez, Phoenix Strategic Solutions, just landed its first major client. After they left, I called my mother. Phase 1 complete. Thompson Holdings just fired Whitmore Industries in all but name. Elena, are you sure about this? Your father's company? Isn't my father's company anymore, remember? I was disowned. Cut loose. They made it very clear I'm not family. I was already pulling up my trading app. Medical Pharmaceuticals was about to crash, and I had put options that would trigger automatically when the price hit $40. What happens now? Now, Dad realizes his biggest client is about to walk, and he's going to panic. Victoria will volunteer to fix the relationship with some brilliant new strategy. Except, I smiled as my phone chimed with a profit alert. Medical had just tanked to $38, netting me another $847,000. Except the strategy she'll propose is sitting in my laptop at home. The same laptop she's been sneaking into my old room to access. She's been what? Breaking into my room, copying my files. I've been leaving breadcrumbs for months. Fake strategies, false data, deliberate mistakes. Tomorrow, Victoria is going to present a marketing plan that will not only fail to save the Thompson account, but will actively offend them. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. That's diabolical. That's justice, Mum. They wanted me gone, fine, but They don't get to profit from my work anymore. My phone rang. Unknown number again. Elena Rodriguez speaking. Elena? It's your father. I smiled at my reflection in the office window. I'm sorry, who is this? I think you have the wrong number. Don't play games with me, young lady. I know this is you. I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't have a father. I was disowned, remember. This conversation is over. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Phase 2 was about to begin. The security footage was even better than I'd hoped. Victoria, tiptoeing through my old bedroom at 2 a.m, USB drive in hand, copying files from my deliberately abandoned laptop. Maya had installed the hidden cameras before I moved out, and watching Victoria steal my fake marketing strategy was pure entertainment. She's actually doing it, Maya said, rewinding the footage. Your own stepsister, breaking and entering. Oh, it gets better. I pulled up the file Victoria had copied. Wait until you see what she just stole. The strategy I'd planted was a masterpiece of subtle sabotage. On the surface, it looked brilliant. Cutting-edge social media tactics, influencer partnerships, demographic targeting. But buried in the details were fatal flaws that would destroy any client relationship. Offensive messaging disguised as edgy marketing. Budget allocations that made no financial sense. Timeline projections that were physically impossible to meet. Victoria had just handed herself a professional suicide bomb. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Working late on a special project. Dad's going to be so impressed. Poor thing has no idea, I murmured, typing back. That's great. You're so dedicated. 3 floors below my penthouse, my mother was settling into the guest suite I'd prepared for her. Having her close felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul that Patricia had tried to steal. Tomorrow, she'd start her new job as head of patient relations at the city's premier cardiac centre, a position I'd secured for her through some carefully placed investments in their parent company. Miss Rodriguez? Maya knocked on my office door. The journalist is here. David Harrison looked exactly as I remembered, rumpled, sceptical, carrying a recorder that had seen better days. In my previous life, his investigation into corporate fraud had brought down 3 major executives. This time, he'd be taking down my family. Mr. Harrison, thank you for coming. He settled into my conference chair, eyeing my office with obvious surprise. I have to admit, Miss Rodriguez, when someone your age claims to have evidence of systematic corporate fraud, I'm usually dealing with a disgruntled intern with an overactive imagination. I understand your skepticism. I slid a thick folder across the table. But I think you'll find this interesting. Harrison opened the folder and his eyebrows shot up. Inside were copies of Patricia's falsified custody documents, witness statements she'd paid for, and the crown jewel, bank records showing payments to those witnesses from shell companies she'd controlled. Where did you get these? A private investigator my mother hired was very thorough. I leaned back in my chair. But that's just the personal fraud. The corporate fraud is much more interesting. I opened my laptop and pulled up financial records I'd obtained through perfectly legal means. Public filings, shareholder reports, tax documents. But, arranged together, they told a damning story. Whitmore Industries has been systematically inflating their project costs and billing clients for work they've outsourced to cheaper firms. The difference goes into executive bonuses disguised as performance incentives. Harrison's pen was moving rapidly across his notepad. You have proof of this? 3 years of documentation, client contracts, actual vendor costs, executive compensation records. I pulled up a spreadsheet that would make any prosecutor weep with joy. They've stolen approximately $12 million from their clients. And you're willing to go on record with this? I smiled. Mr. Harrison, they disowned me. I have no loyalty to protect. What about legal repercussions? This is your family we're talking about. My family, I said carefully, chose money over relationships a long time ago. I'm simply ensuring they face the consequences of that choice. After Harrison left, I checked my trading account. My Tesla positions had gained another $200,000 today, and my Bitcoin was approaching its peak value. By tomorrow, I'd be worth over $10 million. My secure phone rang, the line only 3 people had access to. "Elena, it's Thompson." His voice was tight with anger. "We just received the most insulting marketing proposal I've ever seen in 30 years of business." Perfect. Victoria had taken the bait. What happened? Whitmore Industries sent us a campaign that suggests we target financially desperate millennials with anxiety-inducing urgency tactics. The budget allocates $2 million to something called trauma-based engagement metrics. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Victoria had actually copied the most offensive parts word for word. "That's concerning. Elena, I want to know, did you have anything to do with this proposal?" "Mr. Thompson, I can assure you I had nothing to do with Whitmore Industries' current strategy. However, if you're looking for an alternative approach, we're terminating our contract with them immediately. Can Phoenix Strategic Solutions handle an account this size? Give me 48 hours to prepare a transition plan." After we hung up, I called Maya. "Pull together our best team. We're about to become a major player." 2 hours later, Victoria's panicked text arrived. "Elena, something went wrong. The Thompson presentation was a disaster. Dad is furious, and I don't understand what happened. The strategy looked so good when I reviewed it." I waited 10 minutes before responding. "Oh no, what kind of disaster?" "They called it morally reprehensible and professionally insulting. They're threatening to sue us for proposing something so offensive. Dad says it's the worst presentation in company history." "That's awful. I'm so sorry." "I don't understand what went wrong. The research looked so thorough." My phone immediately rang. Victoria sobbing. "Elena, I'm so confused. This strategy came from files on your old laptop, and they were so detailed and professional looking." "Wait," I said slowly. "You went through my old laptop?" The line went silent. "Victoria, did you take files from my room?" I thought maybe you had some old school projects that might help." "You stole my homework to present to your biggest client?" "It wasn't stealing, it was just borrowing. And besides, you're not even part of the company anymore." "Victoria," I said, my voice deadly calm, "those weren't real strategies. They were fake files I created for a creative writing class, fictional marketing campaigns designed to be deliberately terrible." The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. "What?" "I was writing a satirical piece about bad corporate practices. The whole point was to make something that looked professional, but was actually completely offensive and unworkable." No, that can't be right." "Check the file properties, Victoria. Look at the creation date, look at the folder name. Creative writing, satire assignment." I could hear her frantically typing, then a sharp intake of breath. Oh God, Elena, what have I done?" "You've just cost your family their biggest client by plagiarizing a joke." "You have to help me fix this. You have to tell Dad this was all a misunderstanding." I looked out my office window at the Whitmore Industries building, where lights were blazing in what I knew was an emergency board meeting. "Victoria," I said softly, "I'm not part of the family anymore, remember? You made that very clear. Figure it out yourself." I hung up and blocked her number. Tomorrow, the real fireworks would begin. The emergency board meeting at Whitmore Industries was scheduled for 9 a.m. I arrived at the coffee shop across the street at 8:45, ordered an espresso and settled in to watch the show. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I had a perfect view of the chaos unfolding in my father's conference room. Maya had been tracking the news since dawn. 3 more clients have already called to terminate their contracts. Word spreads fast when you insult someone as connected as Thompson. My phone buzzed. Another blocked number, but I recognized the pattern. My father, trying desperately to reach me from different phones. I let it ring. Miss Rodriguez? Maya's voice carried barely contained excitement. Channel 7 News just called. They want an exclusive interview about the Harrison investigation. The article had gone live an hour ago. Local businesswoman exposes family's decades of fraud. Harrison had done beautiful work, laying out not just Patricia's custody lies, but the systematic theft from Whitmore Industries' clients. The FBI had already issued a statement about an ongoing investigation into corporate financial improprieties. Schedule it for tomorrow, I said, watching a black sedan pull up to the Whitmore building. Men in suits emerged, FBI if I had to guess. I think we'll have even more to discuss by then. Across the street, I could see Victoria gesticulating wildly in the conference room, no doubt trying to explain how she'd accidentally destroyed the family business with a fictional marketing strategy. My father sat with his head in his hands while Patricia paced behind him like a caged animal. My mother's text appeared. Just saw the news. Are you okay, sweetheart? Never better, I replied. Justice is a beautiful thing. At exactly 10:17 a.m., the FBI agents walked out of the Whitmore building with boxes of documents and 3 people in handcuffs. Patricia's designer heels clicked frantically against the pavement as she tried to maintain her dignity while being led to a federal vehicle. Victoria wasn't arrested, yet. But the IRS agents who entered the building 5 minutes later suggested her time was coming. My business phone rang. Phoenix Strategic Solutions, Elena speaking. Elena, this is Margaret Chen from Chen Industries, the tech heiress whose company would explode into a billion-dollar empire next year. In my previous life, I'd met her at a networking event and watched her build an empire while my own family held me back. I have been following the news about your former associates. I have a proposition. I'm listening. My company is about to enter a new market phase. We need strategic consulting from someone who understands both finance and corporate dynamics. Someone who isn't afraid to make difficult decisions. I smiled. Margaret Chen's offer would come with a retainer worth more than most people made in a decade. I'd be very interested in discussing that, Miss Chen. Excellent. Also, I believe we have a mutual friend. David Thompson speaks very highly of your work. After we scheduled our meeting, I allowed myself a moment of pure satisfaction. In my previous life, I had spent years being overlooked, undermined, dismissed. Now, I was being courted by the most powerful businesswoman on the West Coast. My secure line rang again. Unknown number, but this time I answered. Elena, please don't hang up. Victoria's voice was hoarse from crying. I need your help. They're saying Dad might go to prison. Patricia's already been charged with fraud and perjury. The company is finished. I took a slow sip of my espresso. That sounds very difficult for you. Elena, you have to understand. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was just trying to help the family business. I was trying to be useful. By stealing my work. It wasn't... Okay, yes, I took your files, but I thought they were real. I thought I was using your old strategies to save the company. Victoria, I said calmly, even if those strategies had been real, taking them without permission was theft. Taking credit for my work was fraud. The fact that they turned out to be satirical fiction just makes you incompetent in addition to dishonest. Please, I know we haven't always gotten along, but we're family. No, we're not. The words came out harder than I'd intended. You made that very clear when you spent years convincing everyone I was worthless, when you supported disowning me, when you celebrated my failure, We're not family, Victoria. We're strangers. But the money, the investigation. You're destroying innocent people too. What about the employees? What about my mother, who couldn't see me for 9 years because of Patricia's lies? What about all the clients your family defrauded? What about me, watching my own family profit it from my work while telling me I wasn't good enough? Victoria was crying again. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry about all of it. But Eleanor, you have enough money to help us now. You could save the company. You could... I almost laughed. Victoria, do you have any idea how much money I have? What? Phoenix Strategic Solutions just signed a $50 million contract with Chen Industries. My investment portfolio is worth $15 million. I own real estate in 3 states and cryptocurrency worth more than Dad's entire company. I let that sink in. I don't need to save your sinking ship, Victoria. I built my own yacht. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd fainted. 15 million, and growing every day. Turns out, when you're not being sabotaged by your own family, you can accomplish quite a lot. My father's voice came on the line. Victoria must have put me on speaker. Eleanor, if this is true, then you understand business. You understand that destroying Whitmore Industries hurts more than just us. There are employees, contractors, families depending on this company. Then you should have thought about that before you built it on fraud and theft. I stood up, gathering my things. The show across the street was winding down. Dad, you had a daughter who was brilliant, loyal, and devoted to your success. You chose to throw her away for a woman who lied to courts and stole from clients. That's your choice to live with. Eleanor, please. I'm not Elena Whitmore anymore. That girl died the day you disowned her. I'm Elena Rodriguez now, CEO of Phoenix Strategic Solutions, and I have no relationship with the Whitmore family. I hung up and blocked that number too. 6 months later, I stood in the executive suite of my new headquarters, a gleaming 40-story tower in the heart of the financial district. Phoenix Strategic Solutions had acquired 3 smaller firms and was being courted by Fortune 500 companies across the country. Maya knocked on my door. The final court documents just came through. Whitmore Industries officially filed for bankruptcy this morning. I nodded without looking up from my laptop. I was reviewing acquisition proposals, 2 tech startups that would revolutionize their industries within the next 18 months. In my previous life, I'd watched other people buy them for pennies and reap billions. This time, I was the one making the smart investments. There's something else, Maya continued. Victoria applied for a job here. She's in the lobby. That made me look up. She what? She says she's desperate. Apparently, no one in the industry will hire her after the Thompson scandal. I considered this. Victoria begging for a job at the company her former sister had built from nothing. There was a certain poetic justice to it. Send her up! Victoria looked terrible. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by an ill-fitting discount suit. Her confidence had evaporated, leaving behind a woman who looked broken and desperate. Elena, thank you for seeing me. I know I don't deserve... You're right, you don't. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. But I am curious. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish here? I need work. Any work. I have student loans, rent, basic expenses. The bankruptcy wiped out my trust fund, and with my reputation in this industry... She swallowed hard. I was hoping maybe you'd consider giving me a chance. I could start at the bottom. Prove myself. Victoria, I interrupted. Do you remember what you said to me the day I moved out? You told me independence builds character. You said honest work would be good for me. Her face crumpled. Eleanor, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. for everything. I believe you are. But sorry doesn't undo 9 years of believing my mother was dead. Sorry doesn't give me back the credit for the work you stole. Sorry doesn't repair the relationships you helped destroy. I opened my laptop and pulled up a document. However, I am prepared to offer you something. Victoria's eyes lit up with desperate hope. Phoenix Strategic Solutions has a position available in our Portland office. Junior, associate, entry level. The salary is $32,000 a year, exactly what you once said would be good, honest work for someone like me. Portland? But that's where my mother lives, yes. She's the regional director there now. I smiled. She'll be your supervisor. You'll report directly to the woman Patricia kept from her daughter for 9 years. The woman you helped convince everyone was an unfit mother. Victoria stared at me in horror. The choice is yours, Victoria. Take the job and spend the next few years proving you've changed under the supervision of someone who knows exactly what you're capable of. Or leave and try to explain to every future employer why the Whitmore name is synonymous with fraud in this industry. She sat in silence for a full minute before speaking. I'll take the job. Excellent. Maya will send you the paperwork. Your start date is Monday. After Victoria left, I stood at my office window, looking out at the city I now helped shape. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Dinner tonight? I want to hear about your day. Absolutely, I replied. I have some interesting news to share. In my previous life, I died believing I was a failure, that I wasn't good enough for my own family's love. I'd spent years trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided I was worthless. This time, I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's becoming so successful that they have to come crawling back, begging for the scraps from the empire you built without them. My phone rang. Another unknown number. But this time, when I saw Elena Rodriguez, CEO, displayed on my caller ID, I smiled and answered. I was done running from my past. I was finally ready to build my future.